On November 26, 2003, Jerry Dwayne Beets and Kane Overfield, both experienced cave divers, arrived at Little River Spring in Florida. With over 2 years of training and multiple dives in this very cave system, they were no strangers to the dangers of the deep. The afternoon was cool and calm, setting the stage for what was meant to be a routine dive. But little did they know, something far from routine was waiting for them in the depths of the cave. What should have been a simple dive was about to turn into a nightmare. What went wrong? Before we dive into video, please subscribe our channel. As always, viewer discretion is advised. Before diving, Beets and Overfield took every precaution to ensure their safety. They conducted a final check of their equipment, making sure their double tanks were fully filled with air, their backup lights securely attached, and their guideline reels were ready to use. The guideline, a strong nylon cord, would be their lifeline throughout the dive. It's crucial in cave diving because it allows divers to find their way back if they get lost or disoriented. The divers knew that if they lost the guideline in a silt out, a situation where stirred up sediment completely blocks visibility, they would be in serious danger. They had trained extensively for this moment, knowing that being prepared for every possible scenario was vital. Their plan was to dive for 80 minutes, using scooters to go deep into the cave and then turn back when they had used 1/3 of their air. Everything was in place for a smooth and controlled dive, but sometimes things don't go as planned. What would happen next? The two divers began their descent, the water clear and calm as sunlight filtered through the surface, illuminating the limestone walls beneath. As they went deeper into the cave, the light from above gradually faded, and the entrance funneled them into the narrow main passage. At about 40 feet, they entered the Little River Cave System, one of Florida's most famous dive spots. Despite its popularity, the cave still held its dangers, even for seasoned divers like Beets and Overfield. Their scooters hummed quietly as they maneuvered through tight corridors, carefully avoiding any movements that could stir up the sediment. At times, the cave walls pressed close, requiring precise navigation. But there were also larger rooms where pockets of air from past divers' exhalations lingered, providing brief moments of clarity. The water was still clear, with no silt in sight. Everything was going according to plan, and both divers felt confident as they pressed forward, unaware that soon, everything would change. What lay ahead? As they ventured deeper into the cave, they reached the well casing, a vertical passage where the cave narrows before continuing further. It was here that Beets suddenly stopped. Overfield, slightly ahead, didn't notice at first. But when he looked back, he saw Beets hovering in place, his light fixed on something. Overfield signaled, "Are you okay?" Beets responded with a hand gesture, signaling that he was fine. But something felt off. Despite the reassuring signal, Overfield motioned for them to continue. Beets hesitated for a moment before giving a slow nod. With that, Overfield turned back toward the guideline and began to move forward, unaware that this simple moment would lead to a catastrophic series of events. It would take another 200 to 300 feet before Overfield realized that Beets was no longer behind him. A moment of separation, a small pause in time, would soon spiral into a desperate search. As Overfield continued deeper into the cave, he glanced back and realized with a shock that Beets was no longer behind him. His heart pounded in his chest as he immediately turned around, following the guideline hand over hand, ensuring he didn't let go in case of a silt out. The water was still clear, but as he moved back toward the well casing, everything changed. The water quickly turned murky as the silt began to cloud the cave, obscuring his vision completely. A silt out had occurred. In an instant, he was plunged into total darkness, unable to see anything. His hands searched blindly, hoping to spot his partner's light or feel him nearby. The visibility was zero, and every movement he made stirred up more silt, making the situation worse. Desperation set in. Overfield reached out, his hand brushing against something solid. Relief washed over him when he realized it was Beets. But was he okay? Overfield instinctively grabbed Beets' arm, feeling a momentary relief. His partner was still there, still moving. He wasn't panicking, but they weren't out of danger yet. Overfield quickly secured his scooter, letting go of Beets just long enough to clip it to the guideline to prevent it from drifting away. He reached out to grab Beets again, but this time, there was nothing. His hand grasped at empty water. The silt had thickened, and visibility was non-existent. Panic surged as he waved his arm frantically through the murky water, hoping to feel Beats' presence or see a sign of him. He waited, tapping his tank and hoping for a response. Nothing, no movement, no light. The silence was deafening and his heart raced. Overfield had already spent precious minutes searching, his air supply ticking down. He couldn't waste any more time. He had to make a choice, continue searching or leave to preserve his own life. What would he do next? Overfield's air supply was steadily decreasing, and the rule of thirds, the dive protocol dictating when to start heading back, had long passed. With no sign of Beats, he knew he couldn't stay any longer. He was deep into his reserve air, and the safest option was to follow the guideline back to the entrance. But leaving meant abandoning his partner in the cave. He hesitated, straining to hear any sign of movement, any noise that could indicate Beats was nearby. If Beats had been separated by only a few feet of silt, Overfield had no way of knowing. But as time slipped away, he had no choice. Keeping one hand firmly on the guideline, Overfield began his exit, moving deliberately and cautiously to avoid stirring up more silt. The water was still clouded, and the darkness pressed in around him. Every second felt like an eternity. Would he make it out? Would he ever find Beats again? When Overfield finally emerged from the cave and reached the surface, his heart sank. He had hoped to find Beats waiting, but there was nothing. Panic surged through him as he frantically scanned the water, calling for his partner. Realizing the dire situation, a rescue team was quickly assembled. Other divers at the spring entered the cave, following the guideline and retracing Overfield's path. They carefully made their way past the well casing, through the dome room, and deeper into the system. At the far end of the Florida room, 1,200 feet from the entrance, they found him. Beats, motionless, floating in the water. His mouthpiece was out, his regulator hoses dangling loosely, and his eyes half open behind his mask. They tried to revive him, pressing a working regulator to his mouth in the hope that he might still be alive, but it was too late. Beats had run out of air, lost in the labyrinth of tunnels. The cave had claimed him. The tragic story of Jerry Beats teaches us the importance of preparation, caution, and always following the safety protocols in extreme environments like cave diving. Never underestimate the risks, even if you're experienced. The smallest mistake, like losing track of the guideline, can lead to catastrophic consequences. Always be prepared for the unexpected, maintain constant communication with your partner, and never push past your air limits. In life, just as in diving, safety and awareness should always come first. Stay informed, stay safe, and always be prepared. Subscribe for more real-life lessons and thrilling stories.